Hey there, friends. This is Bill MacDonald, the Common Sense Math Doctor. How to use your senses, what you're seeing and smelling, tasting, saying, hearing, listening to, or touching to help you understand math concepts. A lot of you are also calling that using total physical response techniques to teach math, or for that matter, any skill or strategy. The one skill that we're going to focus on in two questions today did very poorly on a fourth grade and fifth grade test. And all it was based on one word with four letters, three syllables. The question in both grades had the keyword area. What is the area? So if your students start with the problem just because P comes before Q question, they might get distracted and read information that will send them off to the wrong path and do the wrong thing, because the idea of math problems is answering the questions that are being asked. That's why a question mark, if you think about it, a question mark has an ear. Someone is asking something and they're waiting for a response. So, the suggestion that I have for area, the second your students see it, they should say it by opening their mouth softly or loudly reading it, and then make their bodies do this. Make an L, make an L for length, and X for times, and a W for width. Area, length, times width. And if your students will remember that, they won't get confused by something else they tend to do called perimeter, which would be add up all sides. The reason I'm making a square or a rectangle is because in both questions, the shapes involved are rectangles and squares. So let me show it to you, because some of you are visual learners. I'm going to share with my document camera. This first question came from fourth grade. It was number 14. And let's see how your students did in Texas. Only 33% of the kids in Texas got it correct. It was reporting category 3, student expectation 4.5D. Solve problems related to perimeter and area of rectangles where dimensions are whole numbers. So there's the whole numbers, and this was not open-ended. It had four answers. But if your kids start by reading the problem first, they might start doing what's called the perimeter instead of the area. So the question says, what is the area, length times width, of the playground in square feet? Well, up here it says the width of the square playground, W width, is shown in feet, 20 feet. Well, according to area, all we need to do is take the width that they already gave us and multiply it times the feet. What is 2 times 2? 4. What do we have left? 2 zeros. So 20 times 20 is 4 with 2 zeros, 400. And because this is a two-dimensional object and we're multiplying feet times feet, it would be 400 square feet. Okay? Why would they get 40 square feet? because the student might have thought that it was length plus width. And if you look at me, there's times and there's plus. So my brain needs to constantly get used to seeing area, meaning product times multiply. Huh. Why would they get 80? Because they did perimeter. 20 plus 20 is 40 feet. Since we're not multiplying, we don't need squared. Plus 20 is 60. Plus 20 more is 80 square feet. So if you did length plus width, you'd get F, which we will eliminate. That would be length plus width. We don't want that. We said that 80 square feet would be the perimeter. Add up all sides. They didn't ask us for the perimeter, they asked us for the area. 400 is our answer. 220. And I was racking my brain trying to figure out how in the world would a student get 220, not 220. 220 is a time, not 220. 220 would need a decimal because every time you say and. And so I'm just going to eliminate that because I can't even figure out why in the world somebody would select it. So the correct answer is going to be letter H. So I've read the question and the problem. I've underlined both places. I've labeled in both places. I'm going to eliminate because we have three answers we have to cross off, F, G, and J. We're going to select one answer in the book, mark a little H so I can practice bubbling. And the last thing that I always recommend you do is place the letter that you're going to select next to the number so that the 14H in the book will match the 14H in the Scantron S or the submission that you put into your computer. Now, let's fly forward just a little bit and see a fifth grade question. They were asking the fifth graders a similar question about area that was just a little bit more complex. What is the area? If you look at me in the corner, length times width in square feet, area squared, of the deck that Edgar built. And so I'm going to guess that this deck is right here. I had to draw this line because what we need to do is use squares and rectangles because those are the two shapes that are here. If we have an area of a triangle, then great, we'll talk about that formula. But the area of these two rectangles, when you add the area of this rectangle to the area of this rectangle, you would get the total square feet. But we want to just make sure that this is the deck that Edgar built. Edgar built a deck in his backyard with a section in the shape of, here it is, a rectangle. There it is. And a section in the shape of a square. And so we know that when you're doing the area of rectangle, it's length times width, and the area of a square is also length times width. So let's see how well your students did in Texas. Only 25% of the kids in Texas, this was reporting category 3 in 5th grade, student expectation 5.4H, representing solve problems related to perimeter and or area and or related to volume. They weren't asking a volume question, which is three-dimensional. We're asking an area question. And so if your students Step one would have finished this line right here because this part was open. They would have easily seen the rectangles. And so the next thing they would do so they don't make a mistake is, since two of the sides are given of the rectangle, that's all I need is two sides. Two of the sides are given of the square, all I need is the two sides. So step one, the rectangle is length times width, 16 times 8. 8 times 6 is 48. Carry the 4. 8 times 1 plus 4 you carried, that's 128 square feet, because we multiplied a two-dimensional object. And then we have 8 times 8. 8 feet times 8 feet would be 64 square feet, or 64 feet squared. And so since 128 square feet has the same keywords as 64 square feet, if you find out what is the total area, all you have to do is, because these keywords are the same, now you can just add 128 square feet plus 64 square feet, making sure that you execute, not exa ugly. Line your ones, tens, and hundreds together. 8 plus 4 is 12. Carry the 1. 6 plus 2 is 8, plus the 1 you carried is 9. And in your hundreds, all we have is a 1. So the answer is 192 and 0 tenths, or and nothing else. 192 square feet would be the answer to this question. And once again, as you can see, because the answer is not there, it's really important that you practice a skill. And so you can use a mathematics chart if you have one, but to practice making sure that your kids know how to use a grid, you can have them turn a regular notebook paper like this, and then I'm going to put right here tenths, hundredths, and thousandths. Depending on the grade level, your kids are going to have to be able to go just to the tenths, just to the hundreds. If you're talking about third graders, you'll be using tenths and hundreds to talk about money. So when you're done mentioning your money, you would call it something, something cents. So how do we use the information that we got? 192 and 0 tenths would be 1 in the hundreds, 9 in the tenths, 2 in the ones, and you could leave it like that, or you could say and nothing else, and 0 tenths, because we were talking about whole numbers. We don't need any portions. And so your kids, all they had to do was record their answer in their answer document and use the correct place value. But whenever you don't have multiple choice, when our world is open ended, it makes it a lot harder. So remember this, everybody, that the second your students see a question about area, I would love you to teach them this little symbol to automatically respond with length, make a little L, times an X times product, and width, area, length times width. And they won't get distracted and do a perimeter instead, which is adding up all the sides. And remember that when you do area, it's square something, square feet, square inches, square yards, square meters, centimeters, whatever keyword that we're using. So 25% and 33% on a question like that to me seems a little bit low. So once again, I highly suggest that we differentiate our instruction so that when we see things that are hard, apparently, we think of things that are easy, just moving my body to respond to keywords in the question so that we don't get distracted by answers that do the opposite or something different than what the question is asking for. Please share this math video on area with your math teacher friends if you're an ELAR, science, or social studies teacher. Um, I don't think your students will ever get a question like this wrong again as long as you make math kinesthetic and use their senses, their mouth to say area, to then say length times width and make the L, the X, and the W. God bless and have a wonderful day.